feel empowered? Eager to let it in, yeah? You feel a little better?
Since coming up here?
No, since sitting over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feeling better all the time.
And you feel better about what you're going to say now than you first did when you thought you'd like to sit here?
Yeah, you probably noticed my hand would go up sometimes and
So
not
you're in a
others.
different point of receiving right now, aren't you? So
Yes,
what do you
I am.
want? What?
So, well, first of all, I want to just express my appreciation for your teachings. The last 20 years, it's been an amazing journey, and it's made all the difference.
Empowerment feels good, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've been in the hot seat quite a few times trying to ask something, and it
We
never...
didn't recognize you. No disrespect, but we don't pay any attention to who's who. You're new every time.
Sure. Well, I just mentioned that because I've tried to ask something, and I don't think I've ever quite gotten the question out. It hasn't hasn't quite gelled.
Here it comes.
So it's about the subject of death, which of course is not a reality. I totally get that.
We get why it seems important, though, because somebody who was in your bed isn't. Somebody that you ate dinner with is no longer eating dinner with you. In other words, they're different.
Yes. Well, we had a really good conversation when my parrot of 30 years, who I dearly loved, passed away.
Your parent or your parrot?
My parrot. But we'll talk
Just
about...
wanted to make sure you knew what we were talking about.
We'll talk about my parent in a minute, though, also. But I've always tried to understand what happened when this parrot, it was like my kid, it was like a very close relationship. It was probably the biggest source of love in my life for many years. And when
Animals are like that because they don't push against. They are, not always, but usually, an embodiment of pure positive energy. So it's easy to calibrate to them rather than reaching for your inner being when there's someone so consistent. Esther did that with Jerry. Jerry was so non-resistant that Esther calibrated to him. Even knowing about Abraham, she still calibrated to him.
Well, when he did make his transition, I knew in my head, I'd been following you for like 10 years at that point, and intellectually I totally accepted that there was no death and that he was, in a wonderful realm of joy and back where he came from. But it was kind of like, it was just in my head. It wasn't quite a known experience in my heart. But soon after that, and I'm trying to understand how this manifested, because it was like a manifestation where I suddenly had this experience. It was like a thunderbolt, like a lightning strike from the sky, that it was like a vision of him. And I knew instantly that he was okay and alive and still...
And focused on you.
And still a part of my life, and focused on me, yes. And the instant that...
And you rendezvoused with his now presence. It wasn't a memory. You rendezvoused with his now presence.
Yes. But when that happened, what was happening at the time was I had been through all this emotional turmoil, and I sort of just gave up, and I just wanted to stop thinking. It was just all my thoughts were painful.
Yeah.
So I just kind of collapsed on the bed to just turn off my mind.
Yeah.
And
You let go.
boom, that's when it happened. It was like...
Yeah, because the desire stayed strong, but the resistance stopped. You gave it up. You gave up the struggle, and in the absence of the struggle, you got what you wanted.
Yeah. Now, in this amazing zap that happened...
It wasn't a zap. It was you accomplishing the bandwidth that allowed your desire. It's like you suspended your beliefs, and your desire was all that was left standing. Hear that? And then, boom. Jerry told Esther a story long before they met Abraham in a relationship that he was living that was winding down. And he'd gotten more bad news. He was in Spokane, Washington, on his way to see these people for Christmas, had a carload of presents and so forth. Don't come. We don't want you to come. And it was like the last that he could endure. And he said, I went out into the road in front of the Davenport Hotel and looked upward for whatever reason, and it was snowing on my face. And he said, I give up. And in that moment, goosebumps that started at his toes coming up, Esther knew that's what it feels like to come into alignment with your source energy. But Jerry was describing it like champagne bubbles. And then he said, and then everybody loved him. Everybody wanted to be around him. It's like he felt that way for a long time. It's not giving up your desire. It's giving up resistance. And when you give up resistance, you come into alignment with who you are. And then the next logical step can come into your experience.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's really hit home for me over this past week because, I've been coming to the workshops and cruises for many, many years now. And my mother would almost always be with me. She was a big fan of your teachings also. And last week, she made her transition to non-physical. And to be honest, as much as I loved her and she was so close to me, I have not felt a single drop of grief. And I feel like maybe the experience I had with my bird is like it inoculated me almost from grief or something, because of the world of energy and the presence of these beings around me who love me so much. It's just a reality, and it's not.
When Jerry and Esther took their first cruise, Esther's father had just made his transition, and Esther was feeling bad about it. She always wanted to bring her parents on a cruise and never got around to it because they weren't stable enough to do it. And now it's too late. He's gone. And so she's in the stateroom and she's lying on the bed and she's feeling all of that. And then relaxed, tried to let it go. And in her mind, she heard a song, it felt audible to her, that he sang in the car when they drove. He didn't sing it well, but he always went for it. On the road to Mandalay, where the flying fishes play. And at that very moment, Jerry, who was out on the balcony, said, Esther, come quick. There's flying fish. So, what a glorious moment that was. Esther knew that her dad was seeing the flying fish, and that was the best way Esther could translate what he was seeing was through a familiar song that he often sang. In other words, it let Esther know there was no separation between where she was and where he was. These things happen all the time. Those dearly departed are not departed at all. They're different because they're not negative at all. They're not pushing against anything. They're not worried about you. They're not worried about you, but they are aware of you, and they are focused with your inner being on the things that you want. But they won't join you in a lower vibration for the rendezvous. You got to join them in the higher vibration for the rendezvous. And that's why it catches you off guard. It catches you when you're not suspecting it. And then if you're like most humans, you have the rendezvous, and then immediately you start missing them again, so it goes away.
Right. And another reason it's really become clear to me how wonderful this all is that this past week has really been, actually it's been a whole year, because she had a year where she developed dementia, and it was kind of her letting go process took a while for her.
It's a path of least resistance for her,
I know you've talked about how if you're afraid to die, then sometimes dementia is the easiest way to start the process.
It diffuses your focus on what you're afraid of, and then when that fear subsides, you do what you really want to do. Whoosh! Oh, that's such a nice experience. We can hardly wait for you all to croak.
Now, to sort of get back to the last question a little bit, can I ask one other thing? So I've spent some time in many third world countries where this thing of interacting with what maybe you could call the spirit world, that's what they would say, and interacting with their ancestors is kind of
we know
common.
That's why we call them first, not third.
Yes. But so they, for example, they would say, they would wake up in the morning and they would have a conversation with someone in the spirit world, one of their ancestors, maybe their mother or father, whoever, and say, can you please help me today with this such and such practical thing? And they say that's important because those in the non-physical, they want to help you, but if you're not really inviting in their assistance, you have free will.
You make the perfect point, because you don't need somebody else to help you. If you're asking and expecting then it will come. But these people believe in that help, so they expect it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think maybe in a way also, you don't have to ask with words. Vibrationally, we're asking for help.
We don't want to hurt your feelings, or Esther's either, because she provides us with so many words. But your words are not important. It's your vibrational offering, which is evidenced to you by the way you feel. In other words, how do you describe love? It's like indescribable, but you know the feeling. Esther feels it when she sees the babies in the strollers and the dogs in the elevator and in other words, you know what it feels like to be focusing in utter appreciation. So what's appreciation? In other words, there are so many things that words, in other words, is the most common phrase that Esther translates, because we are always offering her another approach to something, and she's stepping into it by saying, in other words, and then off she goes with other words. What the words do, the benefit of words, is they can bring you to similar points of asking. And when two or more are gathered on the same wavelength, you are more powerful. You just are. Words don't mean diddly squat, really, unless they focus you into feeling wonderful. When we described Esther's surprise and delight over that wall out there that you probably saw and you'll see on the way out, the words that Esther found to try to explain how she felt did have some meaning to you, but it's not the same as you having an experience. That's why we've been saying for a long time, words don't teach. It's only life experience that teaches. And so we like it when you understand that you are an extension of source energy. We like it so much when you can find the feeling of your own deservability. But you know, the way you find your feeling of your own deservability is to want something and get it. Seeing somebody else get what you want doesn't give you the feeling of deservability or worthiness. You've got to focus the feeling until it comes, and then you've got it. That's our powerful desire for all of you, especially as a result of this conversation today. You're in a better place than you've ever been to connect those dots. And we can feel that you've shifted to a person. You've shifted in your understanding of how this all works. Understanding it and applying it are two different things. Speaking it and feeling it can be two different things. Wanting to feel good and finding a way to do it, and then another way to do it, and then another way to do it. Even if you just flop yourself on your bed and try not to think because thinking hurts so much, that's doing the work. Yeah. We've enjoyed this day with you. It's more than words can explain to you. It's really, 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 really fun and delightful for us to keep an eye on your next discoveries. Not because you should, not because you owe it to us because we were really clear today, not for any other reason other than that you want it and you should have it. You are source energy in physical bodies with power that you want to focus. The same energy that creates worlds flows through you. Have a lot of fun with all of this. There is great love here for you. And for now, we are complete.
Thank you. I love you.
So good. So good.